Hey, 7th graders, this is Mrs. Tyler. Today we're going to finish up notes on ratifying the Constitution, Unit 1, Notes 5. This one's a quick one. So we had talked the other day in Notes 2 about getting together as a convention and starting the process of writing the Constitution. We talked about how they knew really quickly that there were going to be some things that they weren't going to agree on. So there were 7 guiding principles that they had taken from the Declaration of Independence and established as the guiding principles that they would use, the things that they could agree on. In Notes 3, we talked about the things that they argued about and the different compromises that they came to. And then in Notes 4, we talked about what is actually in the Constitution itself. So for Notes 5 today, now what happens? We know what's in it. We're going to see how this goes. Once the Constitutional Convention ended, newspapers in every state printed the Constitution so that the people could read the newly proposed plan for government. Each state would hold their own conventions and decide if they would ratify or approve the Constitution. Okay. In order for the Constitution to become the official framework for government, it would need to be ratified or approved by 9 of the 13 states. And that was outlined, like we said, in Article 7 of the Constitution. That's where they outlined how to make the Constitution officially the highest law of the land. But ratification didn't come easily. The same debates that went on at the Constitutional Convention were now going on throughout the states. 2 groups emerged in these debates, the Federalists and the AntiFederalists. Supporters of the Constitution were called the Federalists. James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay were leaders of the Federalist campaign to get the Constitution ratified in each state. They wrote all kinds of letters and pamphlets and had them published so that they were explaining some of the things, some of their deep and strongly held beliefs about the document and what needed to happen. So they supported the Constitution, and they favored a strong national government. Okay, that's why a strong federal government, federal is the same, kind of means national. So that's why we call them Federalists. They wanted a stronger federal government. Now, there were anti-federalists. Those who opposed the ratification of the Constitution were called anti-federalists, and these men were led by George Mason, Patrick Henry, Sam Adams. All of these men were around and still remembered very vividly how the British government had abused its power and had restricted colonist rights. Their biggest complaint with this Constitution was that it listed the powers for having a stronger federal government, but it did not list out the rights of the people. And they knew all too well some of the things that the British king got out of control with taxation, with forcing colonists to house soldiers in their homes, trying to take away their right to defend themselves and disarm them. The things that the king had, all those extra tax burdens, no representation, the colonists were not allowed. So they wanted to make sure none of that happened again. They know that governments have a tendency to get inflated and over powerful, and they didn't want that happening. So these people were opposed to the Constitution as it originally was presented. They favored stronger state governments as well. They wanted to make sure that each state had its power of some state sovereignty. They also wanted a list of individual rights. They wanted to make sure that we had a list that no government could take those rights from us. Now, James Madison argued that, humans have too many rights, have too many God-given rights to list on one piece of paper. That would be impossible. And the Anti-Federalists said, well, let's just start with the things that the King of England had abused, and we'll just go from there. We'll at least make sure that those things that we fought against, are what we protect in the new document. So they argued they wanted this list of individual rights. They wanted a Bill of Rights that no government could ever mess with. Okay? So in order to convince the Anti-Federalists to ratify the Constitution, the Federalists agreed to add a Bill of Rights that would list individual human rights. They would use the amendment process that's outlined in Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution that allows changes to be made. With this compromise, each state finally ratified the Constitution. The ratified document allowed each of the followed each of those guiding principles that had shaped the vision of our government. We had looked at those guiding principles in Notes 2. We're going to revisit them and see how the new outline of the Constitution fits all 7 of those guiding principles. So one of the principles is republicanism, that we vote and elect representatives to send to a government that unifies this whole country, and that's the whole Federalist piece. So we have many states under one nation, which is federalism, governed by elected representatives, which is republicanism. The Constitution establishes that power comes from the people. That's why it begins with we the people. And power of government is bound by the Constitution. So that gives us our popular sovereignty, where power comes from the people, and limited government, where the government can't go out of control. That people in power are also tied to and have to obey the Constitution. The Constitution also establishes that separation of powers and checks and balances by having 3 equal branches of government that share power, and they have powers to balance and check each other. And once we add the Bill of Rights, that completes that circle of those 7 guiding principles. It gives a Bill of Rights to list the individual and states' rights that no government can ever take away. At the end of Notes 4, at the bottom, there was a timeline that looked like this that we did not get a chance to fill in. So we're going to fill that in today. And this is our official timeline for Unit 1. So in 1789, a year after the Constitution was ratified, we hold our first presidential elections, and George Washington is elected the first president of the United States. And then in 1791, our first Congress that was elected and sent by all of the 13 states gathers together, and they follow Article 5 of the Constitution to add a number of amendments. They proposed 12. 10 of those 12 were ratified in 1791, and those became our Bill of Rights, and they're added to the Constitution. All right, that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening, and talk to you soon.